What happens when a small experiment on the early internet turns into a community of millions? Hello and welcome to The Zach Brown Show, the show that introduces you to old friends, one story at a time. I'm your host, Zach Brown. On this episode, I'm joined by Paul Gowder, founder of powwows.com. We talk about how his time in the Boy Scouts helped spark a lifelong interest in Native American culture, what it was like building a website when the internet was still brand new, and why serving the people who are already there may be more important than constantly chasing bigger numbers. All that and more, coming up. Well, Paul, welcome to the Zach Brown Show. I am so glad to have you here hanging out with me today.
I appreciate it. I've been actually kind of nervous about this, so I'm looking forward to it. But when I get interviewed, mostly it's talking about tactical stuff, but this is more general. And so I was like, oh, I don't know. Let's see what I do.
Well, it's fun. I mean, you and I have had a number of meals together and hangouts and just sitting and talking. So like, this is just the same thing. There just happens to be a bunch of other people who are going to watch it later. I always find it interesting to look at where people are now and to see how they got there, you know, like the little things about who they were as either a kid or in the seasons before that kind of helped make them who they are now. So, you know, we're going to talk about powwows.com, which is a huge part of who you are and what you do. But I really want to know, like, what was young Paul Gowder like?
Oh, I had a really good childhood. I look back and my parents, sacrificed and did what they can to make sure that I had what I wanted and needed. And they let me do all the activities I wanted to be involved in. So, I was Scouts, marching band, going to camp and all the Boy Scout stuff. They really supported me. So it was really good. I look back on it very fondly. One of the reasons I started this whole internet thing was because of, growing up as a kid in the late 70s, early 80s, Star Wars was a big thing for me. Mm-hmm. And, those are some of my favorite memories looking back, and like my dad and I, putting together the Death Star, next to the Christmas tree on Christmas morning, and then playing with the Star Wars figures. I have my collection sits right here of all those figures, just because that's one of those things I just remember going to watch Star Wars for the first time with the friends that lived across the street. And we laid on top of their station wagon to watch the movie. So cool. I was really good, involved in so much stuff, stayed constantly busy. I found that for me, especially like middle school, high school, the more busy I was, the better student I was. Too much downtime and, I didn't do as well. So I liked staying really busy, having that, lots of stuff to do. For me, that was great. So, marching band, 3-4 days a week.
What'd you play in marching band?
On Thursday? Oh, so long story. But to get you there, because it's not a straight answer. So I went to a small private school from preschool through the end of 10th grade.
Okay.
And because it was a small a private school, when they decided to have a marching band program and a whole band program at all, they really put, it's like, okay, even if you're going to be a middle schooler, we're going to put you in the marching band, right? So I started marching in 6th grade.
Wow.
Right. Because it was a small school. They needed everybody. And we still only had like 60 people on the field.
Yeah.
So I started on alto sax.
Nice.
Somewhere, maybe freshman year, they had an opening on the drum line, and I'd play drums at home. At home, I'd play drums and piano, and then took up the sax. So
nice.
They had an opening on the drum line, and they had people audition. I was like, oh, sure, I'll try it. So then I switched to marching percussion.
Cool.
At the end of 10th grade, I changed high schools and went to the public school, mainly because I wanted that big marching band experience.
Yeah.
And so I marched 2 years, and graduated from the public school in our county. So Sumter High School. And so I went from a band of like 40 to 60 people to, over 100.
Wow.
And yeah, we were very, very competitive. We finished second in the state both years I was there. It was
wow.
pretty awesome. My first show at Sumter High, full circle moment was a Disney show. So,
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
I love that stuff. It's funny because like so many people that I talk to are musicians, and it's not by design. I just kind of like, I feel like we somehow gravitate towards one another. But when they're like, yeah, I was in band. And when you ask like, what did you do? It's funny the reaction that you get, because some people are like, oh, I was this and I was so proud. And then there's some that are just like, the sousaphone or whatever it is. It's so great.
Well, so at Sumter High, I still played saxophone in concert band. I marched percussion. First year I was there, I marched bass. My senior year, I marched quad, tenor, drums.
Cool.
And then went to USC, University of South Carolina, not the other one, and marched 2 years there. So first year I marched saxophone. Second year I marched drumline. So
very well.
Yeah, a lot of different instruments, but it was really fun.
Yeah. So you said that you were in the Scouts. How big was Scouts in your life? Like, how far did you go? Did you make it to Eagle? Did you go through? Like, what was your story there?
Yeah, Scouts was huge for me. And I had I didn't have a great beginning scouting career. So I really have to thank one of my scoutmasters, two scoutmasters actually, that really made it for me. So I started off, again, I started off in a really small church, troop. My church started a troop, and my mom's like, oh, you need to join this. I had already been in Cub Scouts. And so when the church formed a troop, I went there.
Gotcha.
It was really small. It was good, but it was only like 5 of us. Right. So,
yeah.
I was looking for something. I was very active and I really enjoyed scouting. So my mom's like, okay, let's find you something better. Went to a second troop. It was a really, really big troop. And I kind of got lost in it. And somebody from our church he was in this other third troop, and he told my mom, he's like, you need to bring Paul over here. We have a really good program. I think he'll like it. Some of my friends from school were over there. So I went to that third troop, and the 2 scoutmasters there, Mr. Stevens, Mr. Granke, they made the program so incredible. I actually got to see Mr. Granke, who ended up being my scoutmaster through most of scouting for me. I got to see him just a couple months ago. It was really cool to see him again. But yeah, I did the whole thing. I was on camp staff, made Eagle Scout.
Wow.
Went to National Jamboree, worked on camp staff. Yeah, scouting was really, really big part of who I am. And some of my closest friends that, we talk all the time. We don't get together as much anymore. We actually got together right before I left on this last cruise. It was the day before I left on this last cruise. One of the guys who went through scouting with us passed away. And so we all kind of, went to the visitation and everything. So
yeah,
unfortunately we're in that season of life where that's happening more often than we won't. But yeah, those were some of my scouting friends. If you look at like our wedding picture, all of my groomsmen, I think, we're all scouting friends. So those are some of my closest friends, and the people I still talk to very regularly are all scouting people.
Cool. I dig it. I didn't do Boy Scouts officially. Our church did Royal Rangers, which is a very like assembly sort of thing. But there's something about that, like, in your uniform with your friends, getting the merit badges and all the things. Like I feel like at some point everybody should do something like that. Some sort of organized group where, you do a task to do well, and you get recognized for that. I think it gives a good work ethic, and there's camaraderie to it. And I love that you said, like, how all the guys in your wedding, like, we're with you through that.
Yeah.
All the stories, me, Paul, like, I'm such a big story guy. I love a story. I love something experience, whether it's good, bad, ugly, whatever, just a good story. Do you have like a favorite story? I'm sure you have many, but a favorite story from scouting?
There's so many good camp stories. At Momentum, I told the snake bite story. That's a good one. So there's a couple here. That first troop I joined, the scoutmaster, he tried his best, but he was not the greatest leader, unfortunately. But he loved to tell us the stories about when he was a scout. And when he was a scout, he earned the most merit badges ever in Sumter County. And every week we had to hear about he earned 45 merit badges every week. 40. So when I finished my scouting career, I earned 47. Not that I'm petty or anything.
I love it.
My mom got really into that. She's like, we're going to make this happen. We're going to get 47. Okay. You only have to get 21, by the way. So, yeah, but like the snake bite story is one of my favorite ones. My first day as a camper at Boy Scout camp, this is 1985, I believe. We're taking a tour of camp. They're taking us, all the first year campers around. It's Camp Coker up in Society Hill, South Carolina. And I'll abridge it from what I told him a minute, but they're taking us around to all the program areas. And, we're hearing about what you do at camp. Here's first aid, here's handicraft, here's the swimming. And they're all telling us, the last thing they're telling us is, hey, if you see a snake, don't touch it. Well, the two people guiding our tour, one of them was from my troop. The other was a guy I would get to know later, Jeff Steinecker. But as we're walking next to the lake, the guy from my troop, Warren, reaches down and does grab a snake. Now, what he thought he was grabbing was a little black water snake. Mm-hmm. What he didn't see was there was two snakes, and he picked up the water moccasin. I'm standing, because he's from my troop. I'm right up at the front of the line. I'm standing right next to him, and he picks this thing up. It wasn't until like 5 minutes later that I understood what happened. He picked it up. It bit him. He switched hands. It bit him. He switched hands again. It bit him.
Oh my gosh.
He goes to throw it, and it just rakes down his arm. This dude was 6'5", 250 pounds. He played football. He took off running. Jeff Steinecker was a little short dude, skinny, maybe 100 pounds soaking wet. He took off after him and tackled him.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't run, dude. And yeah, I mean, he ended up being okay. He actually had to have some surgery, had to have skin grafts because that thing just tore his hands up. Oh my
gosh.
But because he was such a big dude, he survived. Because, this was, Boy Scout camps are in the middle of nowhere. So we were probably good 45 minutes from any kind of hospital.
Oh my goodness.
But they did get him there. Yeah. That was my first day ever at Boy Scout camp as a camper. Just nuts. Like, and so we're running back to the campsite, and, Mr. Greggy, Mr. Stevens, Warren just got bit by a snake. And they're like, what are you talking about? Yeah. It's just crazy.
Oh my gosh. Water moccasin, you don't mess around with those jokers.
No.
I mean, I'm from Florida. You see them and you're like, no, you don't touch those guys.
So that was 1985. I spent at least a week there, probably 2 to 3 weeks there every summer until, I don't know, like 1994, 95. So I spent a good amount of time. And in that time, he was the only one I know that ever got bit by a snake. And we saw a lot of snakes, rattlesnakes, water moccasins. We saw it all up there. And so fortunately, he was the only one that I know that ever got bit.
That's a pretty good record, except for that guy.
Yeah.
Now, something that obviously we talked about and is really a big part of who you are is powwows.com. And we'll get into that. But I just want, did scouting play any role in introducing you to Native American culture, or did that interest come from somewhere else?
No, I mean, that's where I first even knew it was a thing. Because my parents didn't know anything about our family history either until I started digging into it. So yeah, it was scouting that where I first kind of was introduced into that. And scouting has a really mixed history with Native affairs and stuff. But yeah, that was where I saw it for the first time, and then was like, oh, this is really interesting, and kind of dove into it. But yeah, Scouts is where I first saw that.
Okay. So what was it about it that, you kind of, I don't want to say latched on, but where it really piqued your interest, where you're like, wow, this is interesting. Because boys are like sponges. We're just always picking up influences and whatever. But I feel like we all find that thing eventually that we're like, I really gravitate towards this thing. What was it about it that you were like, I want to find out more. I want to really like delve into this.
And for me, it was the history, the meaning, and I had some really good teachers in the beginning. Some of the people that, when I went to my first powwows, kind of, showed me what all the stuff meant and showed me how to make things. But yeah, it was that history, learning, all the different beadwork and ribbon work, learning all those crafts. And, yeah, that was just fascinating to me. Kelly will tell you that when I go into something, I get really obsessed. Not that we have too many bourbon bottles right now, but I do go all in on things. Right. Yeah. And yeah, I was all in, reading every book I could, going to powwows, talking to people. I remember when I first was learning, I would call people on the phone and like, hey, I met you at this powwow. Can you answer these questions for me? And they're like, who are you?
Yeah.
And we'd spend like an hour on the phone, and I'm like, this is awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, just totally fascinated with it. And that's kind of, so I first learned, got introduced to the whole powwow thing. I don't know, 88, 89, graduated high school in 1990, went to college, where I had some friends that were going to powwow. So they took me, and we, started learning more. And so that's when I really started, like, that was when HTML was a thing and these websites were first starting. So when I was playing around with HTML, never meant for it to be anything. I just started building or writing web pages like, hey, I just learned about this. And so I was just writing stuff down on these web pages. And hey, I took this picture at a powwow. This is really cool. So it was just me exploring and sharing, and people related that and started coming.
I love that. I mean, just that you had the knowledge, you found it interesting. And I mean, yes, it was for other people, but you were kind of doing it for yourself, like not in a selfish way, but you're just like, I'm going to write this down. I learned this new thing. Here it is. I mean, I think that's really cool.
Never thought anybody would ever read it, right? This was just, I just want to write this stuff down. And it wasn't even meant that I wanted anybody to read it. It was, I just liked playing with HTML, and I liked building and tinkering with computer stuff. Mm-hmm. So it was like, well, what do I, I'm looking around, what can I build it on? I did build a Star Wars page too. That's actually still out there in the original way. But yeah, so the two things I knew in college was Star Wars toys and powwows. And, I was, when I wrote on these pages, I was like, I'm not an expert. This is, I have no idea what I'm talking about. This is just what I'm learning and finding. And so it was just a way of really just playing with HTML and building things. I've never thought anybody would ever read what I was writing.
Yeah. So let me go back just a little bit. Like, take me to your first time at a powwow. Like, what was that experience like? And what was it that made you go like, oh, I got to come back to this?
Yeah. I'd seen, at some of the scouting things we went, they had some dancers come and do exhibitions and things like that.
Cool.
So, but I'd never been to a powwow. And the first one I ever went to, I think it might've been freshman year. It seems like that's about right. Freshman or sophomore year in college, somewhere in that time frame. Cause I was home for Christmas break, and I knew there was a powwow going on in North Carolina. But I didn't know anybody going. I'm like, I'm kind of scared to go to my first powwow by myself. It was, powwows are Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
Saturday morning, two friends, I found out that they had gone Friday night. I'm like, wait a minute, y'all actually went? So I'm literally like telling my parents, yeah, I'm going to leave now, and I'm going to drive 3 hours to North Carolina. And they're like, what are you doing? So that was my first powwow. We went up there in North Carolina, and stayed in the worst, oh my God, the worst hotel ever. We actually put like stuff in front of the doors because we were so sketched out by it. But yeah, it was awesome. I got to go and see the first actual, powwow in real life. So I want to say that was probably like 92, 93, something like that.
Okay.
We kind of say powwows.com started in 96. I mean, I think I started building the web pages probably in like 94, 95.
Wow.
But it really wasn't a thing until like 96.
That's incredible. Now, I mean, I think there's a lot of people who obviously there are a lot of people that know what these are, but for someone who's, watching this, listening to this and going, what on earth is a powwow? What is it like? Could you I know you could spend hours talking about it, but explain this to someone who's not sure what a powwow is.
Want to know what to expect at your first powwow?
Uh-huh.
Go to powwows.com/powwow101. I got a full email sequence all about that. Now,
did you like that softball?
I may have done that one once or twice, but powwows they're celebrations. So they can be held for all kinds of different things. Some tribes just have annual powwows. Some tribes will have homecomings. Maybe they'll have a spring and a fall. Some people will have a one-time powwow to celebrate a graduation or a wedding. Or if somebody passes, maybe they'll have a celebration, an honoring, a powwow for that. A lot of them are annual and do happen, but there's tons of them that just happen one time for a specific reason.
Okay.
They're all over North America, United States and Canada. There's probably one close to you. They are open to the public, it's a complete cultural immersion when you go. It's I tell people it's very overwhelming, but it's so incredible to watch. You're going to see dancing, singing. There's vendors, there's food. Most of the powwows, the bigger ones anyways, are contest powwows nowadays. So the dancers and singers are actually in competition. And think of it like the rodeo where, every week these guys travel and compete to try to earn money. So a lot of these dancers, that's what they do. There are some dancers that are full-time powwow people, and that's how they make their living. Most of them not, but they'll travel to these weekends and make a little extra money to help them travel or whatever. So a lot of these are contest powwows now.
Do you have, I mean, you've been to so many of these, but is there an event or something about the powwow that you particularly look forward to, like that after all this time, like doesn't get old? You're like, I am so excited to see blank.
And I'm very fortunate to get to travel to some really great powwows. Gathering of Nations was the biggest powwow, and that was something I always look forward to every year in Albuquerque. Unfortunately, this was the last one they're ever going to have. So that was one I always told people, if you have a bucket list, that's one I would go to. But for me, getting to go to so many powwows, what I really enjoy now is when I get to go to different parts of the country and there'll be a powwow that highlights some of the local culture, because powwows, the dance styles come from sort of the Western tribes or Plains tribes. And so you'll see some of the same dance styles at all the powwows across the countries. So you're going to see the same thing no matter where you go. But then there are powwows that do highlight the local tribe. So if you go to, like I went to one in upstate New York, and they highlighted smoke dancing, which is something you only see up in that part of the country. That's the dance that those tribes did. When I go out to California, they're doing bird dancing. That's what I really love, is getting to see some of that local culture that you don't get to see otherwise. That to me is really exciting. And I love when they feature that kind of stuff.
That's cool. I love that. So you're building this site. You're just kind of putting your information together, little things. You're just kind of gathering here and there. And there's a lot of people that have kind of these pet projects, because you were building this while you were working in the capital of South Carolina, correct?
Yeah. So I started it when I was in grad school, getting my master's degree to be a government employee. And then I went into work for state government. And so, yeah, it was a side thing. It wasn't, I don't even remember when we actually kind of said, oh, this is something that will generate money.
Yeah.
Because at first it was, oh, we have a bill. How do we pay for that? And, Kelly, we got married in 96. It was about the same time that the whole powwows.com thing kind of took off. So she has been there with me the whole journey. And I remember, I think it was like 96 when I went to buy the domain name powwows.com. And back then it cost $75. And I was a grad student. $75 was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I debated it for several weeks. And Kelly kept saying, just buy it. You're not going to ever regret this. This is something you have to have. Thank God I did.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh gosh, we just had a bill of $75. Oh, we now have to spend $50 a month to host the website. It was like, how do we pay for that? And that's when money started becoming a thing. But it was years before it was actually earning any kind of real revenue.
Yeah. And I love that, because people see where you are now and the success of what it's grown into. I mean, your community is like 2.8 million people or something. That's astounding. So,
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it is. But like, you had to start somewhere. Where was, do you remember that first moment when you kind of sat there and were feeling like, wait, people are actually finding this? Like, this is going from being like a website to community. Like the moment when it was just kind of like, it's out there to it's alive.
So the first thing where people actually started, contacting me or whatever, is people were emailing me, asking more questions, wanting more information. I'm like, oh God, now I got to, they would ask me a question. I'm like, I don't know. So then I'd have to go research it, figure out how to answer it, and then put it out on the website. So it was a lot of that at first. And then it was people asking a way to talk with each other. Powwows are such a community thing. They wanted that same feeling they had at powwows online. And so I was traveling throughout the Southeast, and so I was making lots of friends, and we are talking and going to powwows every weekend together. So it was like, how do we continue this? And that's when I said, oh, look, there's this new forum thing out there. So I added a forum to the website where this was back before Facebook and social media.
Yeah.
So we built these forum things where people could post messages, talk back and forth with one another. That's where the community really started growing. The first time I realized that people, let me back up. So going to these Southwest powwows, after I did that, Southeast powwows, we all knew each other. So like the moderator of one of the groups on the forum, I would see them at a powwow and we talk, right? Mm-hmm. But that was still just people I knew. Yeah, there was a lot of activity, but it was still like in this small group.
Yeah.
The first year I ever went to Gathering of Nations was 2004. And we're leaving the event in the airport, standing in line to check in. And Gathering has always been notorious for going late. Kelly was pregnant at the time, so we didn't stay super late. We didn't get to see the end and who won. So we're standing in line to check in at the Albuquerque airport. And I see that the people in front of us had obviously been to the powwow. And I'm like, hey, did you guys stay last night to see who won? I'm really curious to who won the drum contest and all that. And they're like, no, but just go to powwows.com. They'll have a list of winners. I'm like, oh crap. We will, but I really need somebody to tell me. That's when I was like, oh wow. Okay. Some people. Yeah. Wow. That's cool.
Oh, what a special moment. I mean, just to think it wasn't immediate. It's a testament to these things take time. We are in such an instantaneous culture. The fact that our success on social platforms are measured by 1 and 3 second views honestly breaks my heart as a consumer and a creative, because, we put hours into putting something together and it's like, hey, This is how many people watch it for 3 seconds. Like 3 seconds, it's 20 minutes long or whatever. But to have somebody come up to you and be like, hey, what you're doing, without them actually saying it, like, I know what you're doing. I am using it, that they were sending people to you, even though they didn't realize it was you, as the authority on a thing.
Yeah. You
can't beat that. What an amazing feeling that must have been.
That was cool. That was really cool. And that was almost 10 years into it. Right. And those first 10 years we were doing, our forums were killing it. I mean, we had great interaction, lots of traffic, but it still, to me, felt, it felt small because I knew a lot of the people personally.
Yeah.
It had, social media is where it just went nuts, and there's just I have no idea who people are now. There's just too many, right?
Yeah.
So those first few years, it still felt somewhat small to me, even though we were reaching lots of people. We had 100,000 people on the forums at one point, but all the moderators, all the people running it were people I personally knew. So it still felt kind of family at the beginning.
Our conversation continues after this.
Hey, listener, if you've been enjoying the show and want to be a bigger part of what we're building here, I'd love to invite you to join the Patreon. It's a great way to support the podcast, and in return, you get access to some fun stuff like behind-the-scenes updates, bonus content, and even some one-of-a-kind swag like stickers, buttons, and a members-only t-shirt. It helps keep the lights on around here, the conversations flowing, and making this thing something special. So if you're in, come grab your spot. From the balcony to the VIP lounge, each tier brings you deeper into the world of the show. Just head to patreon.com/The Zach Brown Show. I'll see you on the inside.
Hi, you having a great time?
Looking for the perfect place to unwind after a long day? Welcome to the Brass Mallard, your neighborhood escape for great food, craft brews, and unforgettable vibes. At the Brass Mallard, we're all about the unexpected. No sports on the TV, just great conversation, delicious food, and an atmosphere that feels like home. From barbecue chicken and perfectly grilled steaks to our famous house-made rosemary bread, every bite is packed with flavor. Oh, and did we mention? We serve schnapps. Why? Honestly, we're not sure, but it's here, it's tasty, and we're all about it. Located at the corner of Laverne and Grady, we're right where your good times begin. Gather your friends, pull up a chair, and hear stories you've definitely heard before. The Brass Mallard, where flavor takes flight. And now back to our show.
So you've got this feeling where you're building things up. It's looking good on the back end. What was the moment when you were like, okay, I'm going to walk away from the government work and I'm going to do this full time. Like, this is actually sustainable.
So it didn't happen. There wasn't a single, there was a single moment where I decided, okay, this is it. I am going to leave. But because of the way South Carolina government is, I knew my end point.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a classification of employees that if we put in 28 years of service, then we got to retire with a pension, keep our healthcare benefits. You get a percentage of your salary for the rest of your life. Kelly gets a percentage of my salary if I pass, and then Brooke gets a percentage of my salary if we both pass. So I knew what my end date was. I knew I needed to work those 28 years. So literally I had a countdown on my phone for 10 years, counting down the number of days. And my friends in state government are like, well, why are you counting down? You're going to work past that. I'm like, no, the day that thing hits, I am out. Cause it was, it was several years before I hit that end date that I could have left, right? What we were doing with powwows and all the other side ventures I had besides powwows, all of that was sustainable enough that I could have made a move earlier, but I knew I had to stay, for the pension. And I was reminded too, I want to go back and say, I do remember the moment that we thought we needed to think of powwows.com as a business. And again, I go back to Kelly. I always say her favorite character is Jiminy Cricket. So I always say it's like, she's the conscious of powwows.com. When I have a question or, need to make a move, she's the one that kind of is the voice of reason. And I should go back and find out what year this happened. But again, this is early internet. So software would come out, or back then it was applications or whatever.
Yeah.
So these software things would come out like forms, and I installed forms. And then there were ways that you could add a dating site to your website and you could run your own dating site. And I was like, oh, because at the forums, we did have people using the forums in that way.
Yeah.
And we had several people that, had gotten married or whatever. And I was like, Kelly, we should do this. There's software out there. It's only going to cost like $100 and I can run a dating site. She's like, okay, you need to incorporate as a business. She's like, because if somebody gets, something goes wrong in a relationship, somebody gets divorced, we can't have them coming after us personally. And that was the moment she's like, we're forming an actual business. This is now where we're going to take this thing seriously, was because I started a dating site.
Okay, so this is totally new information to me right now.
Isn't that great?
Is this still active? Is this a thing?
No.
Okay.
We closed it. When, when eHarmony and all these others became really big, it wasn't. But yeah, it ran for probably 4 or 5 years.
That's wild.
Thousands of users on there. I got several wedding invites sent to me because people met on there. So it was really cool at the time. It was really neat.
That's so cool, dude. That's one of those like great 2 truths and a lie things. You could be like, yeah, like there for a while I hosted a dating site. Oh, so good. Again, Paul, you have done something incredible. People build things and they try them for a while. They fall off podcast episodes. They always say, like between 7 and 10 episodes and they die. In this day and age, to have something go on as long as Powwows has, like you're in its 3rd decade, which is remarkable. But you're a human being. You have limitations. You have attention spans. You have creative whims and the squirrel. What has kept you interested enough to keep doing this for 3 decades?
It's the community, and that's easy answer. It's the people. It's getting the messages every day through email, through private messages. It's the people who write and say, like, the biggest compliment to me right now that we get, and I absolutely love these, is somebody will watch one of our live streams and say, hey, I'm not able to travel anymore, and this weekend I got to watch my niece or my granddaughter or whatever dance. Thank you so much. That's what keeps us going. It's the community that of course there are times where it's been very frustrating, very hard to continue. And, playing the games of Facebook and Google and all these other algorithms. There's been times, right. I reminisce about a time I talked a little about this often. I remember being on the phone with him during the lunch break at the, state job saying, "Hey man, Google just changed. Google just changed something. We've lost all of our ad revenue. We had done a redesign and I'd actually messed up some stuff and our Google just went nuts. I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know that I can continue we can't do this anymore." And Lou was very encouraging, remember, this is a long thing, this will pass, work through it. But yeah, there's been a lot of times like that, but it's always come back to the community, hearing from them. And it's not always positive, right? That there's a lot of, you get a lot of other messages. But it is the community that, and those people that, keep asking us more questions, keep asking us to do new things. And for me, again, like I started this whole thing because I just like tinkering on computers. And so for me, that's part of it too, is I love building new things, adding new things, whether it's an email sequence or we're working on a really cool app right now that's going to answer requests we've literally had for years that I haven't been able to do. Ooh. Can't wait. I don't want to say what it is because if it doesn't work, I don't want people to get upset, but this is going to be really cool. If we can pull this off, it's going to be really cool. So that I'm still love tinkering with that kind of stuff. I love going to powwows and taking photos, coming home with, 200 photos and going through them. A lot of times I don't even post all the photos I take anymore, but they're for me. I still find a challenge in, being a photographer, going and trying to capture images, capture videos. That's still fun for me. And then, just playing on the internet and adding a new feature and then having the community say, "Oh, this is really cool. Yes. Great job." That's the kind of stuff that keeps me going. I love that part of it.
Yeah. And I love the words you are purposefully using. You are never saying audience. You continually say community, because I know you, Paul, and you look at these people not just as numbers, but they are people, they are humans, they have emotions, hopes, and dreams behind them. And they've come here because you've created this place where they feel belonging, they feel welcome, they feel encouraged, and they keep coming back. So what intentional steps do you take to keep people from feeling like just another number and actually part of that community?
It's something I've had to remind myself over the years. But I do remember a really specific time where I learned that this lesson of how I talk to people and how I present myself does change how people perceive things. This is way back in the forum days. When I first started the forums, again, I was on all these other forums. I was seeing other people build websites and whatever. And on all the websites, the people who ran the forum, their username was always Webmaster. And so that's what I did. When I created my forums, my username was Webmaster. And I remember one of the moderators, Kay Oxendine, out there, Kay, if you ever watch this, but she sent me a message one day and she's like, "Paul, look, people think on the forum, the people who don't know you think you're just like a computer or you're not a person because you don't have a username and they don't understand you. So when you post a message, they don't know that it's you." Okay. So I changed my username to Paul G and I started talking as me and not like as the brand. And that changed everything. And it's really cool. Sometimes it happens a few times a year now. People will still call me Paul G at a powwow, which like, okay, you remember, you were there, you're old school.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, but that's where I really learned that lesson. And it is, you have to talk to people like they are, like Lou says all the time, you talk like it's a friend and you're talking to one person. Yeah. And you have to do that, whether it's email, a live stream, whatever. I try to make sure that I'm connecting on a personal level. And I think that matters, and making people feel like you're actually listening and talking with them and not just shouting at them like you're an Amazon or a Best Buy, because that's not what we are. It's if we're in this space of like creating community, creating content, we are not brands. We're in relationships and businesses, and that's how we have to present ourselves. And it's hard, and you have to really work at it. But yeah, that's what I try to do. And again, I try to remember that I started this thing as like, I am not an expert. I didn't grow up doing powwows, but I enjoy this. I love this, and come with me. We're going to explore this together. We're on this thing together. That's kind of still how I try to present it and, put that out there. And so, yeah, that's at least what I hope people feel when I write and when I talk.
Yeah.
And I hope that comes across.
And I think it does. I think there's this flow that kind of naturally happens, whether we realize it or not, that like actions and words become habits, and then habits become culture, and culture becomes community. It just kind of keeps evolving. You create this kind of like ecosystem where everybody just kind of like takes care of it, and they're cultivating it, sustaining it somewhat independently from like you and the people who are like in charge. But it's those people they're the evangelists for this thing. They love it. And it's cool because people will be drawn to that because they might not know about what you're doing, but they're like, oh, that's interesting. They'll see the passion or kind of drawn in. Have you ever heard from someone whose understanding of Native American culture has changed because of something they encountered through powwows.com?
Ooh, I'm sure I have.
That's kind of a deep question, but
yeah, that's tough. Nothing comes to mind immediately. I mean, I get people that are not aware of powwows at all, and they'll write me and say, "Hey, I found a powwow because of your calendar. I took my family for the first time, and we learned this." So I get those emails, and we're doing some history. We have a new kind of email sequence that we're really focusing on history. So
that's cool.
Lately I do get emails, replies back from that. I was like, people saying, "Oh my, I never knew that part of history." And that's what we're trying to highlight with that one, is there are so many stories and histories that you probably never heard of. So yeah I get those. I'm going to be on the lookout for those. Yeah, that's a good question.
So it's kind of those transitional moments, where somebody's like, here's where I was. And because of something you did, said, or put out, whatever, like it's changed, where they're like, oh, so I think the historical thing is legitimate response to that, because you're giving them this knowledge that they wouldn't have otherwise had. Because some people, I'm sure that there's a lot of people that are just like, oh, it's a lot of people that they get together and there's, I don't know, dancing, drums and beats, but they don't fully understand like the depth, the history, the culture, like, when you and I started talking about it, I was asking you questions and you were going into the varying differences of dances. And it's mind blowing how much of it is out there, that if you just take the time to just kind of be a little curious to go, tell me more about this thing that I don't know.
Right.
You will discover a lot about the world that's out there to be like, wow, culture is wild.
Yeah. Yeah. And even just, I love if I get a chance to sit down with a dancer, and they're dancing a particular style, but they may have something on their outfit that's really not part of that style. And I can remember a couple of these conversations where we sit down and I'm like, so tell me about this. Where did that come from? And they'll say, well, it's because of this side of my family. I wear this. And, and they'll tell me that history. I love that kind of stuff. Is just so awesome to hear what these little pieces of their outfit that probably the average person doesn't even see. But then hearing the stories and what it means to them, what it means to their family, that's really cool.
Let's take a break for a second. If you're like me, you probably wear clothes every day. You wake up and wonder, what am I going to wear today? Same old boring shirt as yesterday? No thanks. But don't worry, I've got you covered. You can order your very own Zach Brown t-shirt today. Visit the Zach Brown Show-shop.fourthwall.com, or you can just check the show notes for a link. In addition to t-shirts, we've got other fun stuff like hats, stickers, mugs, and more. Get your Zach Brown Show gear only on fourthwall.com.
Come on in to Carl's Arcade, where we have all the hottest video games, including Legend Seekers, Ninja Academy, and Jackalope Hunter.
Wow!
You're darn right, wow. At Carl's Arcade, you can win fun prizes, eat the cheesiest pizza, and try the all-new Tube of Mystery.
All right, so just put your hand in there and try to guess what it is. Is it pudding? Nope. Is it peanut butter? Wrong again. Well, what is it, mister? You don't want to know.
Located conveniently near the Windjammer Mall, behind Penny's Popsicles. Carl's Arcade. Live your adventure today.
Oh boy!
All right, let's get back to the show.
For the first time that I met you, you were talking about email and systems and all this stuff. And at first it seemed really outside of my periphery. Like I was like, what is he talking about? Now I see how valuable this subject is, especially for anyone who is creating anything. Like you don't have to necessarily have a podcast. You could be, you know, like a brick and mortar business, but still be trying to build some sort of online presence. And I think a lot of people just go, oh, well, I'm going to create a Facebook page. I'm going to have an Instagram account. And that's all I need to do. Set it, forget it, maybe post a little bit. But what I think people don't realize is that at any time that could go away. And one of the things that you've said, and I just think is such a wonderful nugget of tool belt wisdom is, you know, don't build on rented land. Was there a moment that taught you this hard lesson?
Yes, two come to mind immediately. So let's go back to the forums.
Mm-hmm.
The forums were incredible. There were people on there that would literally post hundreds of times a day. One person, like I had these just crazy users that just loved it. And they formed these relationships. There was one thread on there. Oh man, I can't remember what they called it, but it was all just like how many times a day could they post, and they would hold contests and like, you know, could they post 1,000 times a day? And that thing just had pages and pages and pages of replies. So we were literally, I think I said earlier, 100,000 members, just crazy traffic. It was awesome. And then Facebook. And I remember getting emails, even from some of the moderators. Hey, I need to go and see if I still have a copy of this, but I remember one in particular saying, Paul, man, I have loved being a part of the forums, but like everybody, I'm going over to Facebook because that's where everybody is now. This was really fun. Sorry that Powell's.com is going to die. And it's dead. Yeah. And that was scary, right? Like, what do we do? Because until that point, our powwow calendar, we had written the application at that point that people had to submit their info to us and it self-published. Our photo gallery was submissions by people who sent their photos in. Our forum was all user-generated content. We weren't writing articles. We weren't doing any of our own content at this point. It was all user-generated content. And when you lose all of that and all of your users go to another platform, everything's gone. Like all the engagement, everything's just gone. And it happened fast. And, you know, we had to really transition and figure out, okay, so maybe we do have to write some articles. Maybe we have to embrace this whole social media thing. And it took a few years to figure that out. Yeah. And then even recently in the last few years, there's been other websites like trying to build powwow calendars and trying to, you know, I don't know that I would say compete, but just trying to serve a demographic and try to, you know, put that information out there. And I can remember having conversations with Kelly going, oh, is this going to hurt you? Is other people doing this? And I remember at the time I thought was a good answer, but God, how naive I was. I was like, no, Kelly, our calendar has been out there for so long. We own Google. We own all the SEO. It's going to be very, very difficult for somebody to beat us in SEO. Well, that's true unless SEO just goes away.
Yeah.
If Google no longer serves traffic, it doesn't matter what you rank in SEO. That's just gone. Yeah. So yeah, those are two things that really make me think about, we don't know what these technologies, these platforms are going to do. And if it hadn't been for keeping my email list over the years, I mean, some of these transitions would have been incredibly difficult. Even back in the forum days, I had an email list built into the forum, and we were able to kind of move that over and move it into other things as we figured out other ways to broach the whole social media world. So email is the core. I still feel like that is the place where I can connect with people the best, because I know when I send it out, it does land in your inbox. Not everybody reads every single email you send out, but I know people get it.
Yeah.
As opposed to how I post on Facebook, I have no idea who's going to see it. If you look at Facebook nowadays, Facebook right now is a great place, and I still encourage business owners, you need to be taking advantage of it. But when you post content on Facebook now, maybe only 10%, if that, of your followers see your post. It's mostly they're serving it to non-follower traffic, which is great. That's a whole nother way of generating reach. But if I want to communicate to the people who are following us, email is still that way that I can actually directly talk to them. And I still feel like those are the people, those are our hardcore fans. Those are the people who actually want our content, want to stay engaged with us, want to know what's going on. So, that to me is still the most powerful tool we have.
Yeah.
Recently, I've had 2 people in the last 3 to 4 months reply to an email that was more than 12 years old.
That's wild.
Yeah. One of them, I was clicking on links, and we have changed so many times that the links didn't work because they were on like pre-WordPress.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy.
I mean, it is the difference between social media and direct contact. It gets lost in the algorithm. It's maybe it comes to some, it's not email, is going directly to them. It is so valuable. As I've sat and heard you talk a number of times at different conferences or expos, workshops, or whatever, it has just become so clear to me the importance of having this. So let's say that someone has a podcast, they've got a YouTube channel, a business, maybe a ministry, some sort of creative project, and they have no email lists at all. I know you're already shuddering, but let's just say, where should they start? How should they get going?
Start asking for email, whether it's through, an actual email opt-in form that from Kit or one of these other providers, or it's just a Google sheet that just collects emails and you save it. Whatever you're doing, just start asking people for their emails. Doesn't matter if you have anything to send to them. Just from the beginning, you should be collecting email addresses. Then step 2 is writing a sequence, an automated series of emails, so that when somebody does subscribe, they get 2, 3, 4 emails that kind of welcome them in. And that's where you should start. I think a lot of people do get bogged down in, oh my God, I've got to write an email every week. I got to send out a weekly newsletter. Don't worry about that right now. That's easy later. Let's figure out what the value that you offer, and let's put that in a series of 3, 4, 5 emails. Write those out, and that's all you need in the beginning. And with the tools we have now, with all the AIs, go ask AI, hey, look at my website. Where should I start? What's the best sequence to start? It's amazing. I built a new sequence, and I'm people who are coming to Momentum. My talk this year is going to be on how to use AI to help you build your email marketing program. Nice. So I'm actually building out I'm challenging myself now to build some email sequences using AI, so that when I get to Momentum, I can actually show people, here's what we did, here's how it's grown, here's what it's generated. And I have one that we started last week, and Claude helped me come up with the idea. Of course, I refined it. I didn't just turn it loose, but I was like, okay, that's a really cool idea. Now let's do this with it. Let's add this perspective. And we've come up with I think it's a 5 email sequence and a weekly newsletter on a topic that's totally kind of outside of what we normally post. But such a cool resource. I love it. I'm really excited to see where this goes. We already have, in 2 weeks, I think I have 150 subscribers on it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I still really haven't even promoted it. So it's so easy now with AI, but that's where I'd start collecting emails. 2, let's figure out how to write your first 3 or 4 emails, make them automated. Then we go deeper into it. Then you kind of get into the second level.
So let's say somebody's like listening to this and they're like, Paul, this is great. I mean, you're doing great on your numbers. You're sending out the thing, but I think if somebody today were like, oh, I'm going to start email, and then they create a little form or a landing page, and then they just do the simple join my email list. give them a reason. Like what is a reason to give people to actually join? Like, cause everybody gets emails. Nobody wants emails.
Yes.
But if you give them value, so like, how would you like tell somebody like, this is what you need to do to give someone a reason to actually hand over their email address?
Right. So right now in the content space, and I saw somebody talking about this the other day, is what Google and the AI platforms are looking at when when they are surfacing your content, just providing. So let's take recipe bloggers who have been hit really hard with all the changes.
Okay.
It doesn't matter anymore if you have the best macaroni and cheese recipe. Nobody cares anymore because if they Google or ask ChatGPT for a mac and cheese recipe, it's just going to give them one.
Yeah.
So now what you have to do, the value that you add is your story, your perspective, your experience. So instead of just publishing a mac and cheese recipe, hey, here are my 5 tips to make your macaroni and cheese the best. Here's 5 mistakes I made trying to make macaroni and cheese. Those are the things that put you in it and give people a unique reason to do it. So if you're a recipe blogger, don't just have, hey, sign up to my newsletter and I'll send you my top 5 recipes. No, nobody cares. It's here are the lessons I've learned from cooking macaroni and cheese for my kids over the last 5 years. Here's what's going to make them actually want to eat this.
Yeah.
That's what makes you different, right? And you have to find that little piece of what you do and how you bring it and then offer that to people. The biggest mistake I see people make right now when they are trying to start email marketing is they will put a form on their page that says, join my newsletter. Nobody's going to click that. And then they hide it in the footer or in the sidebar. You need to put it in the middle of it. If you write a blog post or an article, it needs to be right in the middle of the article and give them an actual interesting reason, drive curiosity, and give them something of value. And then the next thing is to deliver that value immediately with some kind of email automation.
Yeah. I love that because it's that simple tip of like, what's your biggest mistake? And just to have them be like, don't bury the lead. If you want them to do it, don't hide it. It's so simple. So something that we've talked about is numbers and communities and different things like that. And, you know, what would you just say to someone, let's say they have an email list right now and it's still small and they're frustrated that it's not, you know, they don't have 1,000 followers or whatever. Right. If someone says like, Paul, I only have 50 people on my email list, that's nothing. What do you say to them?
The thing we hear, again, I'm going to go back to Lou, and you know, if we say his name too many times, he's going to show up. But
I know.
But Lou says this all the time: is if 50 people showed up in your living room, it would be pretty incredible. You know, if you were let's go old school. If you were like a Tupperware salesman, and hosting a Tupperware party at your house, or whatever the MLM is nowadays that you host people at your house. If 50 people came to your house to listen to you sell knives or whatever it is, you'd be really excited. So never say it's just 50 or it's just 100. Those are people, and serve. Yes, we want to keep growing, but the biggest difference you'll make in your business is serving the people who are there now and not worrying about growing. Growth will come if you serve your audience. And the more you serve your audience, the more you give them value and give them the things that they want and they're asking for, growth will happen because you'll find more people looking for that information and they'll subscribe.
That's good. I love that. All right, we're taking a hard left turn. I'm going through the things that I just know and love about everything that it is Paul Gowder. And again, one of the first things outside of email, the powwow stuff, I was like, this guy's, from what I understand, is super into bourbon. Now, from the outside, people are like, all right, that's the brown stuff. That's for them or whatever. Or they hear whiskey and they're like, yeah, I know Jack Daniels. Let's set those people over on this shelf over here and say, listen up, turn your ear towards my man. How did that start? Like, what, because you weren't just like 6 years old and you're like, I'm into bourbon. Like, how did you become the bourbon guy?
Oh, goodness. So it's one of those things that didn't happen overnight, but I think it was during COVID that I started getting videos served to me, TikTok, YouTube, of these bourbon hunters and these bourbon folks.
Mm-hmm.
And I, it started with, oh, this is really interesting. You have to hunt this stuff down.
Uh-huh.
And then as I dug, you pull back a couple layers, and the history fascinates me. I love hearing about it because it is American, the American spirit.
Yeah.
It has to be made in America. It is the thing that we as Americans built. It's the only spirit that we created, that's unique to us. And so, hearing that history, a couple of summers ago, we went up to Buffalo Trace and did the tour. Even Kelly was fascinated by seeing how whiskey bourbon has kind of gone all through American history, and how no matter what time period you look at, there's bourbon related in it. Prohibition, the World War I and II, there's little touch points here. Bourbon has woven its way into all this history. So I was always fascinated that those kind of layers got me interested.
Yeah.
As we cruise, even from our first cruise, we would go to these tastings, wine tastings, champagne tastings. And to me, it was always fun, but I never left there going, oh, okay, yeah, let me go buy that bottle of wine.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't get the flavors. I didn't get all those things that they did. But when I started seeing the bourbon thing, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if I could. So then, I go on the next cruise and I order, one of these things. I was really excited. I remember the first time I went on a cruise and saw a bottle of Blanton's, and oh my God, I can order a pour of Blanton's on a ship. I've never had this before. Let me try it. And you're like, oh, okay. And then you taste a different bourbon. You're like, whoa, they really are different.
Uh-huh.
And knowing the process and knowing that, it's just the wood and the age and the mash bill that changes all that. To me, again, as Kelly says, I like to have my obsessions. And so all of this just made me dive deeper into it. And yeah, it just snowballed from there. And it is fun to, post content and go on a bourbon hunt. It's really cool. I've been posting a little more bourbon content later, which is for me, again, it's fun. I like tinkering with the stuff. So editing a video, doing all that. But again, it's the community. I had somebody today that I've known him for years. We were band parents together when Brooke was in high school and did band. Another full circle moment when my kid actually did marching band. And so he messaged me today. He's like, hey, by the way, a group of us do a bottle share every few weeks. You want to come to the next one? I'm like, yes, that's awesome. So, it's the community, and the number of messages I've gotten over the last couple of weeks. I found just recently, like this weekend, I found a bottle of Stag, which is my favorite flavor profile with Buffalo Trace. Anyways, I found a bottle, and I posted, I was like, hey, I now have 2 bottles of this at 2 different batches. Which one should I open? Oh my God, the messages, the people, the responses. It's been so fun to, listen to everybody debate which one I should open first.
Yeah.
And of course, most people are like, just open them both and blind them against each other. Yeah. It's the community. It's the history. It's just peeling back all of that and getting into it. It's been fun. I like I said, I enjoyed doing those wine tastings and stuff, but it just never held my attention after we left. But
yeah,
for some reason, this just sparked a little interest, and has been fun to dive into.
I have another buddy of mine. His name's Scott, and he has a podcast called Idiots with Class, which I think is a great title. And they talk about bourbon and cigars and that whole thing. And one of the things he talks about that I think is really cool, where it's like, it's not about getting drunk. Like, it is a social thing of sitting down and like savoring a flavor or something that has been created and cultivated. And, again, it's like cigars. I'm not a cigar guy, but if that's your thing, cool. But it's not about just like the high of a cigarette and whatever. It's like this thing of just sitting and spending time together and mulling and discussing. So I think it's cool how there's such like a community of people that just kind of like, they're on the hunt. They have their preference. They're very passionate about their preference, and they'll tell you this versus that, and to sit, we've had times where, our group has gathered different creators and sitting around and just sharing ideas. And I kind of think it's similar to like the Inklings with, C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien, guys who are like all just sharing ideas and kind of sitting over this one thing together. It's kind of neat. Like I said, it's not for the purpose of like getting drunk. It's just sitting and sharing this flavor profile together.
Right. Like, and for me, when I have a pour at home, it's usually like a half ounce and maybe twice a week. Right. And so I have to be careful. Like when I go to a Polite Pig and I'm trying something new and they give me a 2-ounce pour, I'm like, whoa, that's a lot. It's those are tough. I got this, that's like one a night. Usually you got to be careful. Fortunately, Polite Pig does let you order 1 ounce, especially of some of their premium ones. So, but yeah, it's never about the effect. It's about the experience. And, some of the conferences that we go to has been so much fun to bring and share bottles with friends. I've been able to find some really cool bottles here. And I sent one of our friends, Jeff, a picture the other day. I'm like, by the way, do you know how many bottles I now have for you? So I was like, when we're together coming up in the fall, I'm glad you're driving because you're going to need a box. I think I've got 6 for him now.
Goodness.
Yeah, it's crazy. And Podfest this year is going to be crazy because our friend Jen she's actually started a whole page about bourbon now. So she's bringing some stuff. I'm driving, so I'm going to be bringing some bottles. We're going to have Podfest is going to be fun with lots of different sharing. I can't wait to see what all pops up there. It's going to be cool.
Is there a bottle in your collection that like means more to you, not because of necessarily the flavor or rarity, but it's kind of like the story that's attached to it?
So yes, it's almost gone actually. I maybe have, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 ounces of it left. When I first got into bourbon and I tried, I remember getting my first bottle of Stag Junior at the time. It's now just called Stag. Loved that flavor profile. It's the cherries, the dark colas kind of flavor profile. And at Buffalo Trace, there's Stag or Stag Junior. And then if you go up from there is George T. Stag. And that's the bottle they release once a year. It's very highly allocated. It's very tough to get. I remember going to Polite Pig and splurging and ordering a pour of that for the first time and going, wow, this is crazy how good this is. And so then trying to find my first bottle of George T. Stag. Here's a really crazy way of how I got it and going all the way back to scouting. So I had a friend who wrote me, by the way, Boy Scout patches are a thing and they're very highly collectible. So I had a friend write me and say, hey, by the way, I think I'm going to get rid of a lot of my bourbon. Do you have some patches you can trade? I'm like, are you serious? And so we did a huge bourbon for patches trade. I took 2 of the bottles that I traded for patches and was able to add a couple other things with it and trade a guy here locally to get my first bottle of George T. Stag.
That's fun.
That crazy?
Yeah.
It's and all of that is alleged. That's a story and that really didn't happen.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure. Just amongst us friends.
Yeah. I don't think you're supposed to be trading bourbon, but yeah.
Well, all right. So lightning round. What is an expensive or highly sought after bottle that you think is overrated?
Oh, easy. Yeah. Some of the Pappies, Pappy 15, fantastic, great, probably not worth the money. Pappy 20, good, definitely not worth the money. And a Pappy 23 is a really good pour, but I think right now, if you tried to get it on the secondary market, it's like a $4,000 bottle. No way, not even close to being worth $4,000.
Well, there goes my Pappy sponsorship. No, I'm just kidding. What is an affordable bottle that you think deserves more attention?
Ooh. I am a big fan of the Penelope line. And one of my favorites still is Penelope Toasted. And they do several releases of that. And if you can find a local barrel pick or store pick of Toasted, that's a really good. That was one of the first ones that I bought personally where I could taste a lot of the flavors and get some of the little nuances out of it. Yeah, I love Penelope Toasted.
All right. So Paul, I want to wind it down and just kind of put this little bow. And I love the journey. Like I said, it's all the different things that have led. It's the little bits, the dots that we've collected and now we're connecting, building HTML, the website, an enormous community, bourbon, all the things. There seems to be this pattern of things that you, Paul, you you're curious about seeing where they lead. Is this something that you recognize in your own life, that there's some sort of pattern with all these things?
Yes, for sure. And there's several of them that we didn't cover. Disc golf, for example.
And Roosevelt's.
Oh my God. Roosevelt's, disc golf. There's been lots of them over the years. Kelly, calls them my little obsessions. Yeah. And
we love Kelly.
And yes. And I have learned, I was talking with somebody about this the other day. I know this about myself. And so I do have to limit. And so there are things that I haven't done, over the years, because I know I would go down it. Like, I never bought a PS5 or an Xbox because I know what I would do with that. Jeff keeps telling me I need to learn Notion. I can't do that. I cannot go down the Notion rabbit hole because I will become the Notion guy, and I don't have a spot for that right now. Yeah. So I know this about myself, and it's taking me a while to get to the point where I do have to say no to myself sometimes. And I just can't go down that.
I appreciate that self-awareness when you're like, I will chase that rabbit until I grab it. And then you're like, and then see what it does, There's all the plates that you're spinning, but just go, I can't possibly do one more. And I think that's it's almost like a personal quality control. So I very much respect that. If this is kind of deep, so go with me here. And this is something that I think about, as I'm getting older, and the things that I'm processing about my journey leading to the now. We started with young Paul at Boy Scouts. We walked through all the things, the outset of those HTML days. If you could go back to yourself, that graduate student sitting in 1996, building this website, you're assuming that maybe no one will see this. You're just kind of doing it for you. What would you tell him about that little experiment and where it was going to lead?
Oh gosh. I look at the lessons I've learned over the years, and if you're a Game of Thrones fan, I was watching one of the episodes of Game of Thrones, and I can't say the character's name because it is from the last season. It'll spoil it. But a character says, "I'm sorry for what I did to you." And the other character says, "It's okay, because what you did got you to this point right here." So I would probably just tell myself, hey, look, there's going to be lots of mistakes along the way. There's going to be lots of times when you don't think this is going to work, but you have to stay with it, serve the community, always add value, and you're going to be okay. Because all of the things I did along the way got me here. Maybe I could have done it faster. Maybe I could have done it differently, but staying in state government gave me a stable job to be able to travel, to be able to be at home with Brooke and Kelly and do those things. I had an incredible leadership team and bosses over the years that let me, take time off when I needed, let me use vacation time, let me take unpaid leave to build this thing and to do what I needed to do. Yeah. So, all of those things that I went through got me here. I don't know that I would tell him to change anything, just stay the course and don't lose focus.
I love that, man. And it keeps coming back to where you're talking about serve the community. It's so good, the added value. Paul, you have served me. You have added value to me. And I am so thankful for the friendship that we have cultivated over the last few years. And I really look forward to what is around the corner.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back down there. We're going to be back down in Florida soon.
Nice. So there's only one way to send you out. I want my friends to connect with you. There's ways that you can serve them that they are desperately needing help with. So how can our friends who are listening today, watching this on YouTube, whatever, how can they connect with you and all that you're doing?
Yeah. If you're interested in going to a powwow, they are open to the public and they are happening everywhere. powwows.com/powwows near me will get you on our newsletter and get you updates and show you where they're happening. If you're a business owner and wanting to build your email, build community, I'd love to help. So just come over. My website's paulgowder.com.
I love it. I actually had somebody this week reach out to me and they were like, hey, I saw that you're using Kit and I think I want to get started. Do you know what I need to do? And literally my reply when I get off of this call is to be like, here's Paul's contact information.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Paul, thanks so much for hanging. This has been a blast.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Once again, I'd like to thank my guest, Paul Gowder, for coming on the show. You can learn more about Native American culture and find a powwow near you at powwows.com. And if you're looking to grow your email newsletter in a way that better serves you and your community, you can schedule a coaching call with Paul at paulgowder.com. I also want to thank you, my friend and listener, for taking some time with me. If you're enjoying the stories you hear on the show and would like to continue the conversation, you can sign up for my email newsletter. Just click the link in the show notes. The Zach Brown Show is hosted and produced by me, Zach Brown. It is engineered and co-produced by Corey Jess and is part of the Zach Brown Network. Our album art is by Luis Lopez. Our catchy outro music is Nurse by Corey Jess. You can listen to the full song on Spotify and iTunes. Follow The Zach Brown Show on Facebook and Instagram. And finally, you can help support the show by signing up to be a Patreon member. Memberships start as low as $5 a month with perks like buttons, stickers, sneak peeks at upcoming projects, and even an exclusive shirt. Sign up right now at patreon.com/The Zach Brown Show. That's all for this episode. I hope you come back for the next one. Until then, take care.